Welcome. We bid you welcome. This is John Clauser coming to you from my music corner of the world. And today, this is going to be a little different than what you normally see on my channel. I know you guys get used to maybe me talking about, I don't know, bands like Wasp or Judas Priest or Twisted Sister. And now I'm starting an Accept series. Well, this is going to be a little bit of a diversion from that. And this is going to tackle kind of another side of me, but it also gives me a chance to talk to this gentleman here, Mr. Richard Bodenhagen, from the up north of Wisconsin, fellow Apologetics fan. You may have heard me talk about Apologetics a little bit, but a fellow Apologetics fan. So welcome to my music corner, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. So we kind of started talking about doing this a little bit over Facebook and social media. And we said, hey, let's have a little fun with some apologetics videos. We should do something kind of fun. So this is just a quick little refresher course for anybody who cares, because my apologetics April, I think, did like very few views for the most part. But apologetics is a what they are is they are a Christian parody band. So think Weird Al, but doing all Christian songs or all Christian parodies. So that's basically what apologetics is. So, but before we go into that, Richard, give us your point of entry, as I used to say in the Judas Priest series, into apologetics.
Well, it had everything to do with my wife.
Okay.
So I was at a point in my life where things were hard. I had the paper mill that I had been working for at the time had closed down.
Okay.
Things were tight. We were, scrapping for money on different things. I hadn't started a new job. I hadn't started my business yet. Nothing had started coming together yet. And my wife was regularly listening to the local Christian radio station, and they started promoting this band, Apologetics. And there was one particular song that they kept playing. We're in a parody band. And I've always, since I was a kid, been a big fan of Weird Al. Barbara, my wife, knows that I like parody. Alan Sherman was always a hit for me. All those parody individuals, but she also knew that I was starting to take my faith a little bit more seriously going into it. And I may have been taking my faith seriously, but I don't take myself seriously. And that's exactly what this band was about. So the song "We're in a Parody Band" starts playing regularly, and she's trying to time it just right because nobody's on the internet a whole lot or anything like that yet. So she's trying to time it just right when we're in the car because we're kind of playing at the same relative time every day. And I finally hear it, and I liked it. It was a good song all the way around. The song just introduces the band itself. It introduces the members. It introduces what it is that they're trying to do, but it doesn't really go into the Bible at all, which is one of only, I think, like four songs that they do that are like that. But there was a line in there in particular. It's we have a two-part style. We'll tell you, parts Weird Al, the other parts Billy Graham. And that hit my ear, and I just started listening close. And they're doing the whole thing to promote for this concert that they were going to be doing in New London, Wisconsin. And it turns out it was the second concert that they did there, but the first time I heard about it. Tickets were $7, and that doesn't sound like much, but we were in pretty tight times at the time, and I was like, it's worth it. Let's do it. So we scraped together $14 for a couple of tickets, and we went to this thing, and it really started solidifying a path in my life that has dominated a large portion of my life now.
Very
Not
cool.
just the music, not just apologetics, but my faith in general.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I mean, I think of how I got into the band, and I'm st- I'm so fuzzy on it to be truthful. I think I heard them on like maybe samplers. I had a friend of mine who told me about them, and that's kind of where I got into them. And this was like in the late '90s. So, and I think it was like on an HM sampler was when I finally heard them, and then I started getting some of the CDs, and then I started keeping up and going forth from there. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna kind of introduce you to Apologetics, the band, via a um, a clip from this live DVD they did called Samson Comes Alive, an Evening with Apologetics.
I went and wrote some parodies. Carl tried a little rock, put me on the stage. Keith sleeps comedy with gloom in the act. Bill had some more soul and has a knack for chat. All four guys with many dreams, but God can help you focus these things. Music lyrics we rewrite, as long as we can take a tune and show the light. We're in a parody band. We're here to share with the fans. We got a two-part style. We'll tell you parts without the other parts really grand.
Okay, so what we heard there, that's basically the first verse leading into the first time they do the chorus essentially. So um it's basically right down to where it goes to the we got K basically through the whole first part of the chorus. So in the beginning of the song is Jay's talking about he goes and writes some parodies. Carl tried a little rock and put me on a stage. Keith sleeps comedy, threw him in the act. Bill adds some more soul, and he's a knack for chat. So first, let's talk about who's in the band at the time. Okay, so Jay Jackson, main vocalist, main lyricist. Okay, you got Carl Messner, who at the time was the main guitar player and producer for the band for the longest time. About a year or two or so, give or take, and Carl would leave the band for personal reasons, amongst other things. But he would leave the band. You got Keith Haney on bass, who's still with him today. You got Bill Moose Rigger on drums, who he would leave probably by the end of 2005 into 2006, and would be replaced by the current drummer Jimmy Vegas Tanner. You got Bill Hubauer on keyboards, would add some guitar. After Carl leaves, he would kind of do some producing, extra guitar, but also play some violin. And then Bill would wind up going on to play in like Neil Morse's band. He's currently in Prog Legends, the Crack the Sky. So he's a very sought after session musician, keyboard player, knows his stuff. So let's just kind of break that down. But yeah, let's talk more about this song. What was it about this song that drew you in the most?
First of all, it's an incredibly popular song to begin with.
Mhm.
And the beginning of the song, the very first time I heard it, probably did not clue me in, other than the fact that it was a parody and they were doing really great at the music. I mean, that's one thing that I have to say is throughout my entire knowledge of Apologetics, they have had incredible musicians the entire time. And my understanding, if I remember the story correctly, how they got started was it was in part, there's a few other people involved, but in part, Jay Jackson and Carl Messner were in a Bible group together, and they were trying to remember the stories, and they were just fiddling around with the different songs and trying to come up with ways just for themselves to remember it, and it was kind of catchy to other people.
Mhm.
Um, the first time that I saw when I went to the concert, probably one of the first things that really kicked was the stage presence of Jay, of
Mhm.
course, but I think he was even overpowered a bit. I don't think it ever caused any problems between them or anything, but Carl Messner had huge stage presence. The way he would wander about the stage and interact and all these other things, and when he got going on those guitar riffs, it was he draws the audience in just like those original guitarists. It was
Mhm.
they've got incredible musicians throughout their history, but stage presence, I think Carl has probably topped them all.
I would, yeah, I admit the first time I saw them, which was in 2005, um, yeah, I think I was a little closer to to Carl on stage, where because I got pretty close up to the stage, and I remember being pretty close to seeing Carl, and yeah, he was just yeah, I was a little more glued to him because being obviously you can see a couple of guitars in the back. I'm a guitar player, so of course I'm gonna watch him. And the second time I saw him, I was like almost like right in front of Carl. So so yeah, so that was always a good thing, but um, I think to me, this song, when you keep going through the lyrics, uh, we're all four guys with many dreams, but God can help you focus these things. Music lyrics we rewrite as long as we can take a tune and show the light. We're in a parody band. We're here to share with the fans. We've got, like you said, we've got a two-part style. We'll tell you parts Weird Al, the
Weird
other
Al.
parts
The other
Billy
part's
Graham.
Billy Graham.
You gotta love that. And and let's face it, for those of you who have ever who know this song, it's just parodying We're an American Band from Grand Funk. And there's yes, folks, I have a 45 of this baby that I've had since I was a little kid. My family managed to get a hold of it. Um, I love the song. So I've always loved the song. So I loved how they were able to tell the story and tell a different story using the vocal. Of course, you go into that second verse where those poor guys, golly, they always kept having van problems. Man, it was just like one problem after another. It's like the van was constantly cursed.
Actually,
It's
but the van is how I first got to know the band themselves because the van had broken down at I think they were doing Paperfest
okay.
in Appleton.
Okay.
Appleton, Wisconsin. I think that's where it was. The van had broken down and it was being repaired. And they had taken a bus or something in order to get to the concert, and they couldn't figure out how they were going to get it back to Pittsburgh. So kind of went up and said, "Hey, I know you got this problem. Is there anything that I can do?" And me and my best friend, we wound up being the first leg in like what do you call those? A relay, the first leg in a relay, getting that van back to Pittsburgh. We picked it up from where it was fixed, and then we drove it to the next spot, and then
Oh
they drove
wow.
it to the next spot, and then it got back to Pittsburgh. But then I found out that's the second time that happened.
Wow. Yeah.
I was in the second relay.
Yikes. Well, though, but their whole attitude towards all of that, I think there's because so here's where I'm going to get biblical on all of y'all. So I'm going to just share a couple of verses here that Jay used as kind of an inspiration. And I think what you just mentioned here, I think will tie into this first verse, and that's Proverbs 17:22. A joyful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. That all those van problems they kept having, man, for any normal person, they'd have been crushed for all the stuff that they were having to deal with. But they just kept depending on God to provide, and they got
Somehow
through.
he
And
did.
and and your story just shows that. I think tells a good thing to that. Um, another verse here that they mention. Um, again, when you read through the lyrics of the song, um, First Corinthians 1:27, but God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. And here again, I think this is another version of like, okay, we need help. The van needs help. And people came out and they managed to help them out. So
Mhm.
as far as I'm concerned, those couple verses I think really tell a good story. So good stuff there. So now that's we're in a parody band. Now I want to end by saying the last at the very end of the song, they do the all the outro stuff. We're in a parody band. Woo! We're in Bob Flaherty's band. Woo! Well, who's Bob Flaherty? Well, I know Bob Flaherty. I've actually met him once. Bob Flaherty was a drummer, previous drummer in the band, and he actually pastored a church here in Alabama for a short time, um, just in the northern part of Birmingham. So I actually got to meet Bob and his family. Wonderful folks. Um, he is quite the football fan. He is quite the Steelers fan. If you ever see him on social media, he will be very vocal about how the Steelers performed this year. Just saying. And he hates Tom Brady. But anyway.
The thing with Bob Flaherty is now I've never met the guy.
Mhm.
But uh, from what Jay has told me is he was a huge help to them and always there to lend him a hand and give him assistance, hook him up with a rigging or whatever it was, whatever was needed. He was always there for the band, driving out. Uh, Probably driving out to pick him up from a broken down van a couple of times too. I don't know
Yeah.
for sure if that,
Yeah.
that took place, but I picture it.
Yeah. But Bob and his wife and the kids are great people. They're back outside of the Pittsburgh area, and he's pastoring a church now, and he seems to be really thriving up there. So
I,
Bob, if you happen to watch this, God bless you, brother. I miss you. I wish I could have spent more time with you. So
I want to point out real quick that there's one other line in the song that I find is incredibly important to my own personal history.
oh, sure.
And that's when Jay's talking in the song about the importance of the Bible, and he says, "We'll help you out with our 1 year reading plan." That's a real thing. Jay has a system that he reads the Bible from cover to cover, in 1 year. And shortly after I started to get to know him, I took up the challenge of reading the Bible from cover to cover, and took me a year and a half. I failed the challenge, but nonetheless, it's the first time that I ever successfully made it all the way through. I don't think I ever got through Numbers before without having to give up and skip to something else.
Trust me,
Uh,
Leviticus is the tough one for me. Numbers is easy. You can just breeze through all that. So is well for the most part. I mean, once they get past all the numbers, you can you're good. But then, and Chronicles is another one with all the names and all the numbers and all that stuff. Oof.
See,
Yeah,
I'm a pretty big history guy, so Chronicles started to make sense to me once I started putting things in the correct order, which of course nothing's in the correct order.
exactly, exactly. So now if you're wanting to hear the original version of how they do We're in a Parody Band, um, you can find it on the Atom Up album. You can hear a live version of Apologetics Hits the Road, which I'm not sure, but this might actually be the same track listing as, yeah, this is essentially the same track listing as the Samson Comes Alive, I think. And they did a remastered series called Apologetics Classics, the 70s Volume 2. So that's where you can find the original version of We're in a Parody Band. Again, I'm going to show the DVD again. So now let's move on to the next song we want to talk about. And the next song is their version, their parody of Rush's classic song Tom Sawyer. And with this clip I'm going to show you, this clip basically will show you the type of musicianship that we're looking into. So check this clip out, and then we'll come back at you.
Today Tom Sawyer's eyes on you, and the face he just made, it was quite a view.
All right. So now let's talk a little bit about how they are as musicians here. So you get Bill on the little keyboard thing doing his thing there, which leads into the guitar solo, which, okay, maybe Carl's not hitting it note for note. Exactly. Not in the live setting anyway, but he's still knocking it out, and he's still on top of it. Okay. And then he's keeping in tune with, or he's keeping in sync with Bill. And then you get to the part where all the Rush fans who knows Tom Sawyer gets to that big drum thing, the boom, 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 that dun, 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 dun. You get everybody, you get the drummer turning into an octopus to try to do all that stuff before it leads back into the thing. So as musicianship, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. I mean, okay, maybe, and Jay will tell you, please do not go to the very first things we ever did. Don't go to the album called Isn't Wasn't Ain't or Radical History Tour, and please, for God's sakes, don't look for the cassettes. or don't download the Rare Not Well Done series and think, oh God, what am I gotten myself into? Those are really raw recordings. They didn't have the production at the time, so they,
That's true. But in their defense, lyrically, I think that was some very powerful lyrics, some
oh
very
yeah,
powerful writing, some very powerful parodies that they put out there. I say do go to them.
oh yeah,
Excuse I think Isn't Wasn't Eight was recorded in a garage with a couple of mattresses around them or something like that.
pretty much.
And biblical parody
Oh yeah,
or biblical graffiti. That's
oh
one of
yeah,
my favorite CDs.
oh
And
yeah,
they
yeah.
had them
Once
up first, and then
once you get to Biblical Graffiti and Ticked, and those later, as those start going, that's when the production starts getting
yeah,
better, and then that's where it just doesn't sound quite as raw and thrown together. Whereas I think that's what some of the raw, not well done stuff, or even some of the stuff on Isn't Wasn't Eight, was a little still rough under the edges and different things like that. So, but yeah, let's talk about the musicianship here. Excuse me. Um, I always was impressed with Carl's guitar playing.
mhm.
Now, now
Now,
you got
you said he didn't hit it note for note.
not in
I'm
not
nowhere
not in
near
this.
the musician that you are, though, because I never would have noticed that. You've got an ear that really critiques these things, and to me, it
Well,
was
hey, when
awesome.
you when you've heard Tom Sawyer for as long as I have, you know that song pretty well. You it's like when I go to see a band live, there's there's even like I'll give you an example. I saw Steely Dan back in 2016, and longtime Steely Dan fan. And but they only did one song from my favorite album by them, and the album was called Royal Scam, and they did the song Kid Charlemagne. Get it on, Kid Charlemagne, get it. Well, the guitar player, he was a good guitar player, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't. It drove me nuts because he wasn't doing Larry Carlton's guitar solo, or at least trying to hit some of the points. There's certain points of that solo that are very iconic to the solo, and you just look for those lyrical passages when somebody's doing those songs. And this guy wasn't even trying to. He was just kind of freeforming it. So when Carl's trying to still was getting all the main points, and he does it well on the studio version, but it's just different when you hear in a live version. I'm sure even Alex Lifeson probably doesn't play it note for note live all the time, but then again, he's also played it for 40. Well, not 40 something, because they hadn't played a show in 10 years since before Neil got diagnosed with the brain tumor before he passed away. So, they played that song for 30 plus years. So yeah, you expect Alex to do it, but yeah, that's a little different. But still, Carl still tries to emulate it, and he even tries to get the kind of tone. He was always trying to get the tones for the songs. So I tip my hat off to him there. But
And again, he gets the showmanship and the stage
mhm,
presence, but so does Bill Hubauer.
yes,
He really gets into this one on the stage presence. And I've got to say, the most underrated member of the band, who Keith Haney.
oh
Keith
yeah,
Haney is awesome, but he's also very nervous. He's I don't know. I've talked to him on several occasions, and sometimes he gets real nervous about getting it right, but he gets it every time. And yeah,
he does it. And,
he's
and you think of how many songs they've done, and he's practically playing on almost every single parody. That's a lot of parodies. Lots of
yeah,
songs. And I can't even, I mean, granted, yeah, this was their first show in 7 years that they just played recently, the Immortal Fest. But even still,
he was spot on. He was
spot
spot on
on.
as near as I could tell from the clips that I saw. And
Yeah.
yeah, what I make sure that there is a Keith Haney fan club out there. There is a point where you get certain areas of the country, and the fans, when Keith comes out, are Haney, Haney,
Yeah.
Haney, and I don't want to say that I started that, but I'd like to think that I started that. Somebody else may have beat me to it, but I get it started every time
maybe
we
maybe his
go.
maybe his family did. Who knows?
And he's got such a sense of humor too.
Oh yeah.
Just he'll deliver it dry, but it's funny as all get up.
Yeah. You ever see them do not to break away from Tom Sawyer, because we'll get back to this in a second, but um because humor is also a very big part of apologetics. So we'll get back to Tom Sawyer here in just a second, but you ever see them do when they do the song are you gonna be Ike's girl?
Yeah.
And you get the whole tambourine part.
Oh, Jay just picks on him
And Jay's
relentlessly.
like, here, I got a problem. Here, can I have that tambourine? No problem. Gives it back to him. Now I got a problem. It's just hilarious how they just carry on like that. But anyway, but no, I mean that's where the Weird Al part probably comes in too. The humor part of it, which is
Mhm.
great. Um, but yeah, I mean Tom Sawyer, this is so you take the original song, which is basically a utopian version of the original Tom Sawyer, basically, if you stop to think about it. And now, and then the parody version here is Tom Sawyer, and it's just essentially the story of Thomas seeing Jesus after the resurrection. And so, which is and Jake tells the story masterfully, I think, through in the way of Tom Sawyer. So what do you think about that?
Thomas, well, this is about Thomas in general. Thomas is best known as Doubting Thomas. You get
Yep.
that said to everybody all the time when you're doubting what somebody's saying. Oh, you're just a doubting Thomas, and
Hmm.
it's such a misnomer to the faith that Thomas had. He
Hmm.
had immense faith, but he wasn't in the room when Jesus first appeared to everybody. So
Yeah.
when he says, I won't believe it until I can put my hands in the hole in his hands and in his side, um, anybody would have been like that because it was
Yeah.
absolutely unbelievable what they were claiming took place. And then Jesus shows up again and you see it again. And I don't think that it is something bad to say about Thomas. I don't think it's down on him at all. It's showing that humanity that each of us has, that doubt that we all have within our lives, and he's the perfect example
Hmm.
of trying to see something, trying to see something that he can't see. And that's where faith really comes into play. And
Yep.
he had to have that little push.
Yep.
And when he got that push, the guy was impaled by a lance in India while he was praying, for crying out loud. I mean,
Hmm.
his martyrdom was far away from Israel, trying to spread the word of Christianity, and, and he took a lance.
Yeah.
He got speared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all of them, all of them, but
But
John died a very tough death, a very horrible death. And so yeah, yeah,
yeah.
strong
So
stuff, strong stuff.
yeah,
But
just had to say that, support of Thomas there for him.
there you go. Yeah. Well, it's funny because one of the other verses that Jay uses as inspiration for this song was Psalm 16, 8 through 11, and I'll read that here. I have set the Lord always before me because he is at my right hand. I shall not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad and my whole being rejoices. My flesh also dwells secure, for you will not abandon my soul to Sheol or let your Holy One see corruption. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. So
That's faith.
that's faith. That is faith, absolutely. Um, so there you go, folks. So that's just a couple. We just kind of wanted to just kind of yak about a couple of songs from the band here. Um, we hope that maybe we can do this a little bit more regularly, maybe talk about a couple of others here and there. Um, you never know. We'll see what the spirit leads, as they say. So, Richard, do you have anything else that you kind of want to just share a little bit about yourself or in regards to the band? You didn't get to Immortal Fest, did you?
No, I did not.
No, I didn't either.
I
So,
did text Jay about it and said, thank goodness it was put onto Facebook by all those clips. It was great seeing them. When was the last time they were on stage? Like
7 years
7 years
ago,
ago?
2017.
Man, was it good to see them on stage again.
Yep.
And
Yeah. By the way, before we keep going, I forgot to mention if for folks who want to hear the original version of Tom Sawyer, you can look for it on the Grace Period album, which this is a really good one. There's a lot of good songs on this one. Um, I'm kind of glad they got away from putting 20 songs though on a CD though. I will say that. Again, this Apologetic Hits the Road, which is the Samson Comes Alive DVD, and Apologetics Classics of the 80s. So that's where you can find the original version of Tom Sawyer. So, um,
John,
so
I want to thank you for inviting me on
yeah,
here.
man.
I look forward to doing a few more of these with you.
Yeah,
Um,
let's see what happens, right?
yeah,
And
let's see.
maybe apologetics fans out there, maybe you got a song or two that hey, let's break them down, let's cover them or something. Who knows? You know what? We'll see what we get into, but they've got a lot of CDs. I think what, 74?
I can drive from Wisconsin to Los Angeles and halfway back and not listen to the same Apologetix song twice.
And that's pretty impressive. Now, granted, yes, they do include, I believe they include these classics in there, so you'd have to probably take those out, or maybe not include the live albums, because they do have a few of those, like 2020 Vision and a couple of others like the Boys Ain't Backing Down. But I think that's all original material too. So yeah, there's a lot of there. You could certainly make a long road trip, very worthwhile. So there you go, folks. There you go. We hope this is, like I said, this is a little different than what you would normally see come on my music corner of the world. But I also want to be able to show maybe a little bit of a different facet of who I am as a person. And so I hope that, for the Apologetics fans who watches these, you know, load the comments up, hit me on Facebook, hit us both on Facebook or social media and stuff like that. Like, share, subscribe. Let's talk about Apologetics a little bit. All right. Let's give Jay and the boys some love. So for my friend Richard Bodenhagen from the up north, John Clauser coming to you from my music corner of the world. We'll catch you soon. Take care, everybody.
Have fun, everybody.